You're either gonna hate or love this, and that's kind of what makes this album so interesting. It's been 4 years since we've had an album from Aya, the experimental electronic artist from the UK, with an interesting take on club music, taking a deconstructed approach to the genre, building a sound from unique textures and design. Aya's music takes influence from a lot of different electronic music genres like drum and bass, grime, glitch, you name it, it's probably in there. And it usually comes across as chaotic. I mean, I say usually, pretty much always. Even though it sounds like it's out of control, it's actually quite intricate. The production and the heavily processed vocals are all deeply rooted in club culture, whilst also heavily leaning into that avant-garde electronic music territory. Look, I might not be the most sesquipedalian person out there, but I do think I know a little bit about sound, and her music is confrontational, and rightly so, expressing complex feelings and ideas about the transformation of the body and mind. But surprisingly, at the same time, there's a layer of fun and playfulness in there as well, which is often the case with people who've gone through trauma, right? And again, it's one of those things where you either vibe with it or you don't. But even if you don't, the production, the themes, the intensity are really something to admire. Personally, I would place this more in the world of art more than anything, but it does really work in a club setting too. Before this album having released I'm Whole in 2021, it was a fractured dreamlike album chasing the highs of rave culture, only to find yourself slipping into emotional lows. We've all been there. And that brings us on to Hexed, a deeply personal exploration of identity written in the first months of her sobriety. Whilst that's a central theme, there's also a lot of other things going on here as well, touching on being trans or just being a woman. And this all starts with the opening track, I Am the Pipe I Hit Myself With. It's a wild mix of bass and glitch textures, while simultaneously being quite atmospheric. It's also very claustrophobic. The vocal effects shift dramatically in pitch, giving the idea that there's an identity in flux. And you can really feel this frustration there in the vocals. After reading more about her, you discover that she was part of a Pentecostal church for a few years. After confiding in someone about some feelings that they were having, they were told to just stay in the closet or get the fuck out. And that experience is reflected in the lyrics. They had me out on a witch hunt before I even found myself. And it's hard not to draw a comparison to the literal witch hunts. Women being punished for existing outside of the church's control or even belief system. And it even mirrors how society treats the trans community now as well, like awful. Next up is Off to the ESSO, which, you know, if you're in London, you might know what that is. Full of broken acid-laced beats. Try saying that really fast. Trancey vocals about the pull of a night out with the destructive cycle that often follows. The song builds up into a complete mess and then slows down to a sort of washed out come down. It's kind of like I'll never get this hungover again kind of vibe. The sound design across this whole album is just really cool. It really feeds into the overall sense of discomfort and disorientation that this album is trying to sort of display. For instance, Heat Death feels like you're slowly being lowered into water through synthesis, whilst Peach takes you on this minimal route with the cracks of the whip acting as like percussion. Even the title track, which has no vocals surprisingly, it's just a build-up of feedback and drone creating this foggy, claustrophobic atmosphere, like a sonic glimpse into Aya's anxiety. And then Droplets has this back and forth momentum that sort of makes it quite euphoric, except it's layered with these dark, gritty textures. There's grain, this metallic spring, and these really nice heavy kicks. It feels like a glimpse into the past, but not really a fond one. But you still hear this bright reverb and these shimmers kind of break through every now and then, suggesting that there are moments where there is still light. Overall, getting some Bjork vibes with the overall atmosphere and the vocals especially. And then there's Navel Gazer, which seems to reflect on her pre-transitioned self. I keep expecting some like huge drum and bass drop, but it just like never comes. It's so frustrating, and I think it's kind of meant to be. Vocally, Aya sounds amazing on this one, as she does kinda through the whole album. Lots of emotion, highs and lows, and the use of effects really keeps everything kind of fresh and interesting, but also unpredictable. And that brings us onto the final track, Time at the Bar. And this one hits hard, especially Aya's sort of metal inspired vocals here, delivered over these relentless beats, drones and horns. The lyrics are slightly ambiguous. To me, it feels like a description of recovery, how even after you stop doing the things that hurt you, the pain and desires kind of still linger. To every day a replica, to comfort, to stagnate. And then what's really interesting interesting is suddenly the song just like boom, cuts off, dead silent. A really, really kind of stark contrast from full on noise to just absolutely nothing. Feeling like it's telling you to just stop and forget everything you've just heard, even though deep down it still resonates. I'm probably talking absolute nonsense, I know, but that's kind of how I'm interpreting that. As someone who doesn't really know what it's like to have gone through what Aya's gone through, I can only just kind of imagine. But either way, Hexed makes you feel something. That's for sure. Hexed is definitely not for everybody, and it's not trying to be. It's chaotic, it's raw, it's intimate, and often difficult to listen to. Whether it resonates with you or not, the sheer artistry is on full force here. And saying all of that, I think I would give this album an 8 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of this album down below. Yeah, and hopefully I will catch you on the next one. Goodbye.